They laughed at the old Stoics because they looked calm in a world that was burning. While everyone else panicked, complained, begged for approval, and drowned in fear, the Stoics stood still like mountains in a storm. Not because life was easy for them, not because pain avoided them, but because they discovered something terrifyingly powerful. Your mind becomes your prison the moment you stop controlling it. Negative thinking is not just sadness. It is poison. It steals years from your life before death ever arrives. It turns opportunities into fear, relationships into suspicion, dreams into excuses, and your soul into a battlefield. And most people never escape. They wake up worried, walk around offended, sleep anxious, and repeat the cycle until their entire existence becomes one long argument with reality. But today, that changes. Today, you are going to hear brutal Stoic laws that can destroy negative thinking and rewire your mind into something unshakable. And if you're ready to reclaim control over your thoughts and your life, subscribe to the channel now, because this journey will transform the way you see yourself forever. The first truth the Stoics understood is that your thoughts are not reality. Read that again carefully. Your thoughts are not reality. Most people live as slaves to every emotion that enters their mind. One bad comment ruins their week. One failure becomes proof they are worthless. One rejection convinces them life is against them. But the Stoics knew the mind lies constantly. Fear exaggerates danger. Anger exaggerates disrespect. Anxiety exaggerates failure. Your brain can create storms that do not even exist. And the moment you believe every thought without questioning it, you hand over your peace to illusions. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks for years, believing you were born to suffer under the weight, only to discover you could have taken it off at any moment. That is what negative thinking does. It convinces you the burden is permanent. Stoicism teaches something radical. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And once you learn to stand outside them, they lose their power over you. Most people destroy themselves trying to control things they were never meant to control. They obsess over how others see them. They replay conversations in their heads for hours. They lose sleep trying to predict the future. But the Stoics divided life into two brutal categories. What you can control, and what you cannot. You can control your effort, your discipline, your response, your character, but you cannot control opinions, outcomes, luck, betrayal, or the past. Yet people spend their entire lives fighting reality like a man punching the ocean. And then they wonder why they are exhausted. Negative thinking grows strongest when you resist what is beyond your control. The moment you accept reality instead of arguing with it, your suffering begins to shrink. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop wasting energy fighting battles you were never designed to win. There is a dangerous addiction most people have, and they do not even realize it: the addiction to victimhood. The modern world rewards complaining. It rewards weakness disguised as honesty. People build identities around pain because pain brings sympathy. But Stoicism does not care about sympathy. Stoicism cares about strength. Marcus Aurelius lost children. Epictetus lived as a slave. Seneca faced exile and betrayal. Yet none of them allowed suffering to define their spirit. Today, people collapse over criticism from strangers online. They crumble because life did not go exactly as planned. The Stoics would say something harsh but freeing: nobody is coming to save you. And strangely, that realization becomes empowering. Because once you stop waiting for rescue, you finally discover your own power. Negative thinking feeds on comfort. This is why people who avoid hardship often become mentally weak. The Stoics deliberately trained themselves through discomfort. Cold weather, hunger, simplicity, silence. Why? Because hardship teaches the mind that survival does not require luxury. Most people panic because they have become dependent on comfort for emotional stability. The moment life becomes uncomfortable, they spiral into negativity. But the Stoic mind says, I can endure this. And endurance creates confidence. Confidence kills fear. Fearlessness destroys negative thinking. The more you avoid pain, the more terrifying pain becomes. But the more you face hardship willingly, the more your mind realizes something extraordinary. You are stronger than you thought. One of the darkest prisons on earth is the need for approval. People betray themselves every single day just to be accepted. They silence their opinions. They fake their personalities. They wear masks so others will clap for them. And in the process, they lose themselves completely. Stoicism teaches that if you depend on applause, you will die by criticism. The crowd is unstable. Today they praise you. Tomorrow they destroy you. If your self-worth depends on other people, your mind will never know peace. Negative thinking thrives when your identity is placed in the hands of strangers. The Stoic learns to stand alone, to walk away from validation, to choose self-respect over popularity. And that is terrifying to weak minds because a person who no longer needs approval becomes impossible to manipulate. Most people wake up every day already defeated because they have trained their minds to expect disaster. They assume failure before trying. They predict rejection before speaking. They imagine humiliation before action. This is why so many dreams die before they are even born. The Stoics understood something powerful. Suffering usually hurts more in imagination than in reality. People torture themselves mentally over things that never happen. Anxiety is often the punishment we give ourselves for crimes reality has not committed. Think about how much life you have wasted worrying about scenarios that never arrived. Think about how many nights fear stole from you for no reason. Stoicism cuts through this madness with ruthless clarity. Focus on the present moment. Not tomorrow's imaginary disasters. Not yesterday's regrets. Right now, because right now is the only place your power exists. The modern world teaches people to chase happiness endlessly. More money, more attention, more pleasure, more comfort. But the Stoics warned that pleasure without discipline creates weak minds. A person addicted to constant pleasure becomes fragile. The moment life denies them comfort, they collapse emotionally. Negative thinking becomes inevitable because they have built their entire existence around external satisfaction. Stoicism teaches a different path. Fulfillment through virtue, peace through discipline, strength through self-control. Real confidence is not built by consuming endlessly. It is built by mastering yourself, by proving to your mind that you can resist temptation, endure hardship, and remain calm in chaos. Discipline rewires the brain. It transforms emotional weakness into inner authority. One brutal Stoic law says this: the obstacle is the way. Most people believe obstacles are signs to quit. Rejection means stop. Failure means you are not good enough. Pain means life is unfair. But Stoicism flips this completely. Obstacles are not interruptions to growth. They are growth itself. Every difficulty is training. Every betrayal sharpens wisdom. Every setback strengthens endurance. Negative thinking disappears when you stop seeing hardship as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. Imagine how powerful you become when life can no longer break you because every challenge only makes you stronger. That is the Stoic mindset. Unbreakable because suffering becomes fuel instead of destruction. People are drowning in noise. Constant scrolling, constant opinions, constant distractions. Their minds never rest, and then they wonder why they feel anxious, empty, and mentally exhausted. The Stoics valued silence because silence reveals truth. When you sit alone with yourself, without distraction, you begin to hear the hidden fears controlling your life. Most people avoid silence because they are terrified of confronting themselves. Negative thinking survives in distraction because distraction prevents awareness. But awareness is the beginning of freedom. The Stoics journaled, reflected, and observed their minds daily. They studied themselves with honesty, not to hate themselves, but to master themselves. Because the person who understands their own mind becomes far harder to destroy. One of the most dangerous habits is comparing your life to others. Social media has turned comparison into a disease. People compare bodies, money, success, relationships, lifestyles. And every comparison becomes another reason to feel inadequate. But the Stoics believed comparison is spiritual poison. Your path is your path. Someone else's success does not reduce your worth. The oak tree does not compare itself to the lion. The ocean does not envy the stars. Nature fulfills its purpose without jealousy. Yet humans torture themselves trying to measure up to everyone around them. Negative thinking grows in comparison because comparison teaches the mind that what you are is never enough. Stoicism teaches gratitude for your own journey, mastery of your own potential, freedom from envy. Death was not avoided in Stoicism. It was remembered constantly. And strangely, this made the Stoics more alive than most people today. Modern society hides death because it terrifies them. But the Stoics meditated on mortality daily. Why? Because remembering death destroys trivial thinking. Suddenly, petty drama looks ridiculous. Suddenly, fear of embarrassment loses power. Suddenly, wasting years on negativity feels absurd. One day, your story ends. One day, the people you love disappear. One day, every excuse expires forever. Stoicism asks a brutal question. If death is inevitable, why spend your limited life imprisoned by negativity? Why surrender your precious days to fear, resentment, and self-hatred? Mortality gives urgency to transformation. Most people want confidence without struggle. They want peace without discipline. They want strength without sacrifice. But Stoicism teaches that greatness is earned internally. Every negative thought resisted is a victory. Every emotional reaction controlled is training. Every moment of discipline is construction of a stronger mind. Rewiring your thinking is not magic. It is repetition. The mind changes through consistent practice. Just like muscles grow through resistance, mental strength grows through challenge. The person you become tomorrow depends on what thoughts you feed today. If you constantly feed fear, you become fearful. If you constantly feed resentment, you become bitter. But if you feed courage, discipline, gratitude, and resilience, your entire identity begins to transform. The Stoics understood human nature deeply. They knew people could be cruel, selfish, dishonest, and ignorant. But instead of becoming bitter, they prepared themselves mentally. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that he would encounter difficult people. Not to become pessimistic, but to avoid shock. Most negativity comes from unrealistic expectations. People expect life to be fair. They expect everyone to understand them. They expect loyalty from disloyal people. And when reality disappoints them, bitterness takes over. Stoicism teaches emotional preparedness. Expect hardship. Expect imperfection. Expect betrayal sometimes, not because life is hopeless, but because acceptance prevents emotional collapse. Prepared minds suffer less. There is enormous power in emotional control. Weak people react instantly to everything. Every insult becomes war. Every inconvenience becomes rage. Every disagreement becomes emotional chaos. But the Stoic understands that emotional reactions often create more suffering than the event itself. A calm mind sees clearly. An emotional mind destroys blindly. Negative thinking thrives in impulsive reactions because emotion clouds judgment. Stoicism teaches pause, reflection, deliberate response. And that pause can save relationships, careers, dreams, and peace of mind. The person who masters their emotions gains an advantage most people never achieve. One terrifying realization changes everything. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. People are too consumed with their own fears and insecurities. Yet millions waste their lives terrified of judgment. They silence themselves because they fear embarrassment. They avoid opportunities because they fear looking foolish. But the Stoics would remind you that public opinion changes like the wind. It is unstable and meaningless. The fear of judgment is often worse than judgment itself. Imagine how free your life becomes when you stop needing permission to exist authentically. Imagine the peace that comes when you no longer fear being misunderstood. That freedom destroys negative thinking at its root. Resentment is another poison the Stoics warned against. Holding anger towards someone is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Yet people hold grudges for years. They replay betrayals endlessly. They relive insults repeatedly until negativity becomes part of their identity. But Stoicism teaches release. Not because others deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Carrying hatred chains you to the people who hurt you. Letting go is not weakness. It is liberation. Your future should not remain hostage to your past wounds. The Stoics believed that character matters more than circumstances. This is difficult for modern minds to accept because society worships status, wealth, and appearance. But external success means nothing if your inner world is collapsing. A wealthy person with no peace is poor internally. A famous person consumed by insecurity is imprisoned mentally. Stoicism teaches that true power comes from integrity, discipline, wisdom, and courage. When your identity is rooted in character instead of external achievements, negativity loses its grip because your worth no longer depends on unstable things. Most people fear solitude because solitude exposes truth. They constantly surround themselves with noise to avoid confronting their inner emptiness. But Stoicism teaches the importance of being comfortable alone. Because if you cannot sit peacefully with yourself, no external success will save you. Negative thinking often grows in people who have never learned self-acceptance. They seek distraction instead of healing. But healing begins when you face yourself honestly. Your fears, your insecurities, your flaws, not with hatred, but with responsibility. The Stoic path is not about pretending to be perfect. It is about becoming stronger through self-awareness. There is something powerful about realizing that pain is temporary. No matter how intense your suffering feels, it changes. Emotions move like weather. Storms pass. Yet people often believe the current pain will last forever. This illusion creates hopelessness. Stoicism teaches endurance through perspective. You survived previous pain, you overcame previous fear, and you will survive this too. Human beings are far more resilient than they realize. The mind often quits long before the body or spirit truly needs to. Stoicism reminds you that endurance creates transformation. The world constantly tells you to consume more, chase more, prove more. But the Stoics found peace in simplicity. Simplicity clears the mind. When your life is cluttered with endless desires, negativity becomes inevitable because desire never ends. There will always be something bigger, newer, richer, more impressive. But peace comes when you realize enough is a decision, not an amount. The Stoic does not need excess to feel complete. They cultivate inner wealth instead of endless external cravings. Every single day, your mind is being programmed. By what you watch, by who you listen to, by what you repeat to yourself internally. Negative thinking is not random. It is trained. If you consume fear constantly, your mind becomes fearful. If you surround yourself with bitterness, you become bitter. Stoicism demands responsibility over mental input. Protect your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. Your environment shapes your thoughts, and your thoughts shape your destiny. Many people secretly hate themselves because they believe they are behind in life. They compare timelines. They panic because success has not arrived yet. But Stoicism teaches patience. Nature does not rush. Trees grow slowly. Mountains form over centuries. Strength takes time. Transformation takes time. Your journey is not ruined because it is taking longer than expected. Negative thinking often comes from demanding instant results. But real growth is gradual, quiet, invisible at first. The Stoics understood that mastery is built daily, not overnight. One of the most liberating truths is this: you do not need to win every battle to win your life. People obsess over perfection. One mistake destroys their confidence. One failure convinces them to quit. But Stoicism teaches persistence over perfection. Fall down, get up, fail again, continue. The person who keeps moving eventually becomes unstoppable because resilience compounds over time. Negative thinking wants you to believe failure is identity. Stoicism teaches failure is instruction. Imagine waking up tomorrow without fear controlling your decisions. Imagine speaking without overthinking. Imagine pursuing goals without constant self-doubt. Imagine looking at hardship without collapsing emotionally. That transformation is possible. But it requires brutal honesty. You must stop feeding the thoughts that destroy you. Stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios. Stop replaying old pain. Stop giving temporary emotions permanent authority over your identity. Your mind becomes what you repeatedly allow. The Stoics were not emotionless. That is a misunderstanding. They felt pain deeply, grief deeply, fear deeply. But they refused to become servants to emotion. They understood that emotions are visitors, not rulers. Modern people often worship emotions as absolute truth. I feel worthless, therefore I am worthless. I feel hopeless, therefore life is hopeless. But feelings are temporary experiences, not permanent realities. Stoicism teaches separation between emotion and identity, and that separation creates immense freedom. You have survived things that once felt impossible. Do not forget that. There were nights you thought would break you forever, moments you believed you could not endure. Yet here you are, breathing, continuing. Stronger than before. Negative thinking erases evidence of your resilience. It makes you forget your victories. Stoicism restores memory of your strength. It reminds you that endurance is already inside you. At some point, you must decide whether you want comfort or transformation. Because transformation demands discomfort. It demands discipline when you feel lazy, courage when you feel afraid, action when you feel doubtful. Most people stay trapped because they wait to feel motivated before changing. The Stoics acted regardless of emotion. They understood action creates momentum, and momentum changes identity. The person you become is shaped by what you do repeatedly, not what you intend occasionally. One day, people will speak about your life in past tense. That reality should wake you up. Your time here is limited. So why waste it chained to negativity? Why spend your precious years worrying about opinions, failures, and fears that will not matter in the end? Stoicism strips away illusion and forces confrontation with reality. And reality says this: your life is happening now, not someday. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. The strongest people are not those who never suffer. They are the ones who refuse to surrender internally. The ones who keep walking through darkness without becoming darkness themselves. Stoicism is not about becoming cold, it is about becoming stable, grounded, unshaken by chaos. Because life will test you again and again, and if your peace depends on perfect circumstances, you will suffer endlessly. But if your peace comes from inner mastery, the outside world loses much of its power over you. You must become ruthless with your mind, not cruel, disciplined. Stop entertaining thoughts that weaken you. Stop glorifying victimhood. Stop allowing fear to narrate your future. Every day you practice negative thinking, you strengthen its grip. Every day you challenge it, you weaken it. Rewiring your mind is a war fought through repetition. And eventually, the voice that once destroyed you becomes quieter. There is incredible peace in accepting that you cannot control everything. The Stoics surrendered to reality without surrendering their effort. They understood that life contains uncertainty, pain, and loss. But they also understood something beautiful. Peace is possible even in chaos. Not because the world becomes gentle, but because your mind becomes stronger. And maybe that is the greatest Stoic law of all. Your life changes the moment you stop asking the world to become easier and start becoming stronger yourself. Because when your mind becomes disciplined, negative thinking loses oxygen, fear loses authority, weakness loses control, and you begin to walk through life with a calm power most people will never understand. So if this message spoke to something deep inside you, if you are tired of overthinking, fear, negativity, and emotional exhaustion, subscribe to the channel now. Because this is not just motivation. This is transformation. And remember this as you move forward through life. The mind can be your prison,